Welcome to the webinar, A Day for Sustainability in Project Management. This is Paola Morgese speaking from Italy. Other presenters will be Richard Maltzman from the United States, Ron Skipper and Gilbert Silvius from the Netherlands, Peter Milson from Canada, Monica Gonzalez from Argentina, and Joel Carboni from the United States. I am a professional engineer, a civil hydraulic engineer with a master's degree in environmental engineering and a PMP project management professional certification with the PMI Project Management Institute. My presentation will show how to obtain long-term sustainability with temporary projects. It could seem a contradiction because projects are temporary by definition, but there are ways to solve this issue. First of all, I'll give you some definitions about sustainable development and sustainability. All of you already know the definition of sustainable development dated 1987 and contained in a document of the World Commission for Environment and Development. According to this document, sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. For the definition of global sustainability, I have chosen the following one that I like very much. I found it in a document of the PMI Project Management Global Sustainability Community of Practice when I was its knowledge management leader from 2010 to 2013. It should still be in a document available to everyone on the website of the Community of Practice. According to this document, global sustainability is the attainment of enduring economic, social, and environmental well-being of all elements of society. In both these definitions, we find words referring to the long term. They are future in the first definition and enduring in the second definition. In order to set the foundations for a common understanding of the topic, I wrote a list of some items concerning global sustainability divided into its three components: environmental, social, and economic. They are interlinked among each other. In fact, if we improve, for instance, the environmental area, we will see improvements also in the social and economic fields. On the contrary, if we deteriorate the environment, we will provide also worse conditions in the social and economic sectors, and so on. The described items could also be seen as examples of sustainable objectives for a project, and of course they vary from projects to projects. In fact, our projects are very different. Environmental sustainability is about air, water, and soil pollution prevention and management, climate change, biodiversity, protection of biodiversity, renewable resources, energy saving and unlimited energy, waste management and zero waste, continuous and nonlinear production cycle, and so on. I would like to show furtherly some of them. For instance, climate change. Climate change is caused by the greenhouse gases. It is also responsible for the increase in frequency and in intensity of natural disasters. Renewable resources. They are resources allowed to regenerate faster than they are consumed, for example through biogeochemical cycles. Energy saving. Energy saving is needed if we use fossil fuels as a source of energy, while if we use renewable energy, for instance energy from wind, sun or tides, it is unlimited energy. Waste management should be simplified. Moreover, it could be eliminated if we turn to continuous production cycles producing zero waste, like in nature, as shown in the photo of the composting. About social sustainability, you all know some important documents of the United Nations about human rights or rights of the workers or against the corruption, or all the material about CSR, that is corporate social responsibility. Talking about future generations, there are also, for instance, the protection and the promotion of the cultural heritage of a country, for instance, for literature, monuments, museums, and the like. As examples, the first photo shows a bicycle that is a mobile theater for puppet shows of typical characters of the Neapolitan tradition, while the second photo concerns the crowd before a science center destroyed by a fire. It happened about 2 years ago. The science center is a museum, a science museum, and it is visited above all by children and students, our future generations. So, social sustainability is about human rights, rights of the society, rights of the workers, and rights of the consumers. Economic sustainability. Economic sustainability is about efficient use of resources, distribution of revenues, fair distribution of revenues, economic well-being, distributed economic well-being. Revenues should be equitably distributed among suppliers, employees and contractors, sponsors and shareholders, and the community, indirectly with taxes and directly with donations or products and services. It seems to be all about time, but which kinds of time do we have? How do we have to manage and to deal with them? We have the time of the project. Project is temporary by definition. We have the time of resources, the time of stakeholders, the time of energy, the time of project schedule, the time of products, results, or services. Resources are economic, human. They are equipment, devices, tools, and instruments, raw materials, and the like. The time of stakeholders. Stakeholders could be also future generations, so the time is also a future time. The time of energy. Energy can be renewable, for instance, from sun, wind, and tides, or non-renewable, that is, from fossil fuels, as we have seen before. From this list, we can understand that we have two ways to obtain long-term sustainability with temporary projects. One concerns the time in the project management activities, processes, and knowledge areas. Another way is to provide sustainable products, results, and services with our projects. The first way to act to obtain long-term sustainability relates to the time of the project management activities. Managing the project sustainably means providing enough time to all resources for regenerating, preferring renewable resources, preferring renewable energy, considering future generations as project stakeholders, balancing quality, time, and cost sustainably. The last item of the list, balancing quality, time, and cost sustainably, means to act analyzing and having a comprehensive view of the project dynamics and context. It means setting project goals according to environmental, social, and economic sustainable objectives. Second way to operate to obtain long-term sustainability with temporary projects concerns the time of products, results, and services provided with projects. They should be the expression of some of the environmental, social, and economic sustainable objectives for a project as described previously. Providing sustainable products, results, or services means avoiding planned obsolescence, providing good quality products lasting over time, planning the end-of-life destination of products, preferring a continuous production cycle, planning a sustainable use of the product, result, or service, planning easy and inexpensive operation and maintenance. This is about the rights of the consumers that we have seen before in the list of the social sustainability topics, and providing training and future job opportunities. For instance, if our product is a building, it should have high water, power, and waste efficiency. It should use sustainable building materials. It should use sustainable building practices, and so on. If our product is a laptop, it should have a high power efficiency, if still powered with fossil fuels, or it should be solar powered. This means having in mind that the effects of a project on environment, society, and economy goes beyond the time of the project itself. Here are my contacts. Email me to have a copy of this presentation and visit my LinkedIn profile and the Facebook page of my book, Handbook for Sustainable Projects, Global Sustainability and Project Management, to have access to other useful resources such as blog posts, articles, and updates. The book is available also in Italian, and its Facebook page could appear with Italian name, Manuale per Progetti Sostenibili. Now it is time to give the baton to the next speaker, Richard Maltzman. Thanks for attending the webinar or for watching its recording, and enjoy the next presentation. Rich, take the screen for you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Paola. I appreciate that. And we should be ready to go. So thank you again for everyone for attending. A quick introduction of myself. Hopefully everyone can see the screen. Click on the image of Rich if you do not. I have a very brief background. I have years in industry, 27 of which are as a project manager. I've been mainly in telecom, but I've also spent a great deal of my career on the side teaching and consulting in project management, teaching at Boston University, Emerson College. I will be teaching.
I'm sorry, this is Paula. We cannot see your presentation.
Okay, I'll try to do that again.
Thanks.
Bear with me. Now you can. Now you can, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not sure what happened, but now we're on. And so I was just giving my background. I will not repeat that part. It's really boring. I will then continue with my introduction. I've also written a couple of books, co-authored some books. One in particular called Green Project Management, which won the PMI's Award for Literature in 2011, the so-called Cleland Award. And I've also co-authored a book on project workflow management. So let me continue with the presentation now that you can see it. Start with a rhetorical question, wondering if anyone knows what this is. It's actually a photograph I took a few weeks ago. And the answer is, this is taken from inside one of the tunnels of Boston's so-called Big Dig project. What you're seeing is a light, and if you look a little more closely, the arrows are pointing to some straps, some of hundreds of thousands of straps. What's that all about?
Rich,
well,
sorry.
This is one of 25,000 110-pound light fixtures, one of which fell off the wall and onto the roadway. Luckily, no one was hurt.
Hey, Rich?
Yes?
It's not moving forward.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but the presentation is not moving.
It's not moving?
Nope.
Okay, let's try this again. I'm sorry about that. This went very well in rehearsal. Let me try again. Screen share. Yes. Present to everybody. Yes. One more time. Screen share. How about now? You seeing the screen?
We're seeing it not in presentation mode, though.
Now in presentation mode?
Not in presentation mode.
So you're okay now?
No, we can see the PowerPoint mode, not presenter mode.
Okay. I will try one more time. Persistence is a good thing. Is it now in presentation mode?
Yes, we're good now.
Okay. So these, what you're seeing here holding the light on is some temporary, semi-temporary straps. And these are, and you're seeing this slide now, a white slide with black printing, I hope?
Yes.
Okay. So this is one of 25,000, 110 light fixtures that one of which had fallen onto the roadway. Luckily, no one was hurt. Repairing these and fastening them back on and making sure they wouldn't fall off cost $54 million, at least that was the estimate. It caused the tunnels in Boston's major arteries to be closed, or at least multiple lanes of them closed at times, causing massive inconvenience to people. Several people were fired for the issue that took place. And the cause was basically due to dissimilar metals and the presence of salt and salt water in the environment. But the root cause, from my perspective, is a holistic, the lack of holistic consideration of the long term. And this is only one of several examples of short-term thinking and non-holistic thinking on this and other projects. We're going to come back to the Big Dig later in this talk. Two key takeaways from this is that it's not always about green. Green is obviously important. The ecological aspects of projects are fundamentally critical. But we must remember that they're only one of three aspects of the triple bottom line. The triple bottom line includes other things like social, as Paula mentioned, social and economic aspects as well. Really, it's more about holistically thinking and having a perspective of long-term success, not just of the project, but of the product of the project. In fact, we've adapted the Stanford execution framework into this gear model that shows the kind of the top parts of an organization, whether it's a profit or nonprofit company, having mission, vision, and values at the very, very top, overarching mission, vision, and values, and then obviously yielding steady state operations. But the connecting gear here is the portfolios of programs and projects. That's where the rubber hits the road, and this theme will be repeated a little bit later in the presentation. But that golden gear in the center, that's us as project managers, program managers, and portfolio managers. Brings to mind a book I read when I was an expat for a couple of years in the Netherlands. I did read this book in English and not in the Netherlands taal, but I found it to be a terrific book, and it's an excellent movie. It's a great take if you have a chance. You should catch this movie. It's called The Discovery of Heaven, but I'm not going to present the book to you. What I'd like to present to you is its table of contents. Harry Mulisch, well-known author, divided this book into 4 sections: the beginning of the beginning, the end of the beginning of the end, and the end of the end. Most of us as project managers tend to stop our thinking at the end of the beginning, meaning the launch of the projects. It's the handover of the project to operations. We tend to stop. And our training and our PMBOK guides and Prince 2 methodology often talks about the handoff as being the end of the project. We like to give permission and encouragement to continue, at least in your thinking, to the thinking of the beginning of the end. In other words, when the product is in its operation and when the product is actually even disposed of. So all the way through to the end of the end. As an example of this life cycle thinking, let's take a washing machine. So here's a washing machine, and the way it impacts our environment in terms of the way it's produced, distributed, used, and disposed of. In this case, we can see that the use is the major portion of impact. So when a company like Seventh Generation looks into its product packaging, they find that that doesn't make that much difference. What they should do, and what they found that their effort was better spent on, was producing a product They produce laundry detergent. A laundry detergent that allows cleaning in colder water, because that would bring this heavily impactful set of bars, the usage bar, down. So clearly, life cycle thinking is important. Long-term and holistic thinking is important. But as project managers, we're necessarily short-term thinkers. We don't look deeply into the future. We are focused necessarily, in some cases, on the project at hand. We live our projects in detail at the project level, and our back is turned on the steady state. The gentleman on the right-hand side of the screen kind of bending over, that's us. We're looking back at the Gantt chart, and you can see there opportunities and threats and headaches taking place in our Gantt chart, and maybe somewhere in the distance we have a handoff to operations and we have a little party. But if you were to take that whole thing and shrink it down, because in real life the project is just a blip, then that project, which now shows us a little time frame on the left, is only part of a much bigger picture that includes the project's handoff and operations all the way through to disposal. And if we think about the project in terms of the product in its steady state, we actually would gain some advantage. Things like risk identification. Going back to the Big Dig, they would have understood more about the dissimilar metals and the galvanic corrosion if they had thought about the light in its longer term. So we've pushed this message for a long time, as have other colleagues on the phone here with me, on the Google Hangout with me. And what we found is we get a lot of serious pushback, negative feedback, basically being told that you guys are just adding other constraints to us. So what we've decided probably about a year ago was that project management is probably the wrong level. We got to kick it up a notch or two and maybe look at the portfolio level. We feel it's at the portfolio or at the enterprise level where we really can make a difference. So how do we do that? One of the ways to do that is understanding when a project is really complete and what success really means. There was an article in PM Journal that actually talked about project success, and it talked about different hierarchical levels of success, all the way from project success to product success to organizational success. And they almost had it right. They even started to mention green benefits. But what this article left out, and here's a reference to the article, was the idea of continued success, or what I call sustainability success. So this is a great article, and when you replay the video, you can get the link here. It's from a 2012 PM Journal issue. And even though this has been mentioned in the last year or two, and it's been getting hotter and hotter, you'll see some of the colleagues on this presentation today will cover this as well. It's not a new idea. There's a quote here from Pinto and Slevin from 1988. Some of you might not even have been born yet. And they were talking about understanding project success only after the project has been transferred to clients for whom it's intended. So it supports our assertion that there are some very sustainably oriented way to view our discipline, and it's really how we'd like to evolve project management. Our view is a modification of Peter Drucker's view, which is efficiency and effectiveness. We include a third E here, endurance. And the formula at the top basically just says that we're bigger than our projects. Project success is much greater than, over time, project management success. In other words, the effectiveness and efficiency of the product of the project. But we're looking more at the product of the project. To that end, we've come up with this matrix, a 2x2 matrix, classic 2x2 matrix, that shows several different ways of looking at a project. Let's start with these two dimensions from Peter Drucker: effectiveness on the vertical here, and efficiency on the horizontal. So something that's low in both was a low in terms of project success, and also low in terms of project management success. Unfortunately, living in Boston, we have to point to the Big Dig here. This is a project that was very, very late, was something in the order of 10 to 15 times over budget, and has some ongoing problems. So the product of the project isn't working well, and the project itself took extra time. So it's low. It's in this lower left-hand corner. Let's move up to the Sydney Opera House. Most people think of this as a successful project. And indeed, it's a symbol of Australia. It's considered a success in that it offers the country, and I've been there, it offers tremendous sound quality, and it's clearly an iconic building. But the project itself, if you look it up, was way over budget and very, very late. So its project success was high, but the project management success was low. Then there are companies that have put out products that they're kind of sorry that they did. The project may have been introduced very, very well, but the product of the project was not successful, and I have a few examples there. And in the upper right-hand corner, I'll leave it to you to come up with some ideal projects. There are very few where the project itself is highly successful and the product of the project is not only successful, but holistic thinking went into it, and it doesn't have a lot of impact on the environment. So to take it one step further, we actually think about this endurance piece as exaggerating the idea of project success and thinking about it over time. So that's this movement in the back here. It's the third dimension of thinking about this in terms of time. There's a model that we are going to be using in a new book. I'll talk about it in a moment. This model comes from a gentleman named Paul Bannerman. And with his permission, we're using his model that talks about maturity in project management, going from a lowest level of maturity up to level 5 here is a very high level of maturity, considering our view of projects, products of the project, and kind of the enterprise level of project success as we move from left to right. So on the left, you see a project view where we're very focused on our timeline, on our Gantt charts, and on our stakeholder registers and risk registers. All important stuff, not trying to trivialize that, just saying that that is one element of maturity. As you move up, you consider the product, you consider the deliverables, you start to think about success, and as you move even further, you become more strategic, more focused on the long term, more focused on what the product of the project does in its steady state and how that fits into the overall enterprise's mission, vision, and value, and how you deal with your market, with your competitors, with all of your stakeholders. If you think about stakeholders, they move from very technical stakeholders at the lower levels all the way up to external business stakeholders. And here's where you see partnerships, for example, between Coca-Cola and the World Wildlife Federation as examples of maturity and holistic thinking, even on the social front. There's some more detail here, some questions you can ask. It's a very, very good chart. And then at the top, we can look at the return on investment going from very tactical and project-oriented to steady-state streams of revenue, steady-state benefits in terms of social, ecological, and economic benefit. So here's another connection that we made. This one's a little bit fun, so I thought we'd have a little bit of fun with you today. There's a book called Change Intelligence by an excellent author, Barbara Trautwein. And in the book, she talks about assessing people in 3 dimensions: head, heart, and hands. There's a personality assessment you can take in the book. It's really quite revealing. Turns out most project managers are hands people. With that in mind, I came up with a model that shows how project managers can face long-term thinking because of the fact that they're hand-oriented and where that might cause some problems. So when we get a project, we get a charter, we kind of raise our hand, we take the project. We go through the classic initiate, plan, execute, monitor, control, and close. We have all hands on deck. It's very hands-oriented. And at the end of the project, we tend to wash our hands of it, right? We're done. And that's one of the problems because we really aren't thinking as much as we should about the handoff, right? So at the end of the project, we hand off the project. You see the theme hand coming through relatively frequently here. Now here's where the interesting part comes in. When we hand the project off, when the product is in its steady state, we need to be thinking about its steady state operation, financial success, ecological success, and social success, the triple bottom line. And there are several places, and I won't go into detail here, but there are several places where there are potential brick walls or roadblocks to having that take place. For example, there could be a blockage between the enterprise level and the charter. Is this project really connected to the portfolio goals of the company, to the enterprise level goals of the company? Other presentations today will actually bring this up. Is there potentially a block between the handoff and the enterprise level? Is there potentially a handoff, a blockage between the close of the project and the handoff to operations? We see that very, very commonly. So just a thinking tool, and it's a reminder to check out this book because it's a pretty revealing book in terms of your own personality type and your project team's personality type. This leads us to a model we've come up with, and it's the foundation of a book we've worked on called Sustainability in Projects, Programs, and Portfolios. This is called the Sustainability Wheel. It has 6 dimensions of measurement: respect, reflect, connect, detect, reject, and project. And that's project, not project. It's more about projecting out into the future and looking at opportunities. So I can't go through all the details here, but we've put a lot of work into this instrument, and what it yields is a series of measurements that you can get, or a profile of your enterprise. And looking at each of these dimensions, it can actually convey where you might have some gaps. And we have in the range of 20 signatures that come out of this instrument that can point you in a direction and give you specific coaching as to how your company, your enterprise, can dig further into gaps that you might have when it comes to doing sustainability thinking. So that's a rather quick view of our background and this instrument, which is what we're leading up to. And here are here's my contact information. We're pretty well present on social media, and once I finally get presentations shared, I'm even available here on this YouTube video. So thank you very, very much for your time. I want to thank Paula and my colleagues as well for an excellent job in getting ready for this. So thank you very much. Now I'm going to hand it off to Ron Schipper and Gerrit Silvius, who will talk about the core of sustainability project management. Ron, I think your mic is still muted.
Oh, this is the same. Can everybody hear me? Yes, I think...
Yes, you're okay now.
Okay, sorry. Hello, this is again, I just switched off my microphone. This is Ron Schipper and Gilbert Silvius.
This is Gilbert, good evening.
Hello, good evening. With a brief introduction, we are a pretty great team combining research and practitioner experience in this topic on sustainability and project management. For me, my background is from the practitioner side and combining that with research efforts. And
for me, my background actually also from the practitioner side, but I've been working in academia for the past 13 years as professor in project and program management.
So for today we will share with you 3 important topics, subjects. First, why is the sustainability important to you and also to your business? The second is, well, what's actually the bottom line of sustainable project management? Where does sustainability and project management meet each other? And thirdly, what are the benefits of it, other than only realizing a strategy from the organization? But first of all, I will give the microphone to Gilbert to talk about why is it important to you and to your business. Gilbert.
Yeah, so that's actually addressing the question why sustainability, not even on a project level, but on an organizational level. And I hope you have actually been attending also the prior presentations. I think one of the issues is that we have an overall business model in our society that's called digging up the earth to produce waste. In other words, we take natural resources from nature, make them into a product or some kind of material, use that product for a while, maybe short, maybe longer, and eventually it turns into waste. first landfill and then waste. Actually, we are speeding up that cycle. This is called the linear economy. So it's not a cycle, it's linear. And to see some results of research, 90% of all materials we extract from nature are converted into waste within 1 year. That's actually really scary. It's actually becoming more and more of an issue with the growth of world population. We are projected to have 9 billion people on the planet by 2050. Mind you, that's not that far away. That's about 35 years. So hopefully we'll be around to see it. 9 billion people. We are currently at 7.2. That's actually a lot. And with this increasing world population, the issue is that we are using more and more of the planet. The projections are today that we are using about 1.6, 1.7 planet. And if we move on with 9 billion people on the planet in the way we are using nature now, we will be needing about 3 planets. So that gives you a reason why we are exploring Mars, but I'm afraid it will not be that quick. So what we need to do, we need to change. We need to divert our course. We can't go further on that course of needing 3 planets because there are no 3 planets. We need to divert and change onto a course to using only actually what the Earth can provide us. So our challenge is how to live comfortable life with 9 billion people on the planet. And that means changing our linear economy of take, make, use, waste to a more circular economy that's actually more representing how also nature works. And that requires really a lot of change, not only in energy resources, but in production processes, products, probably the way we design products, the way we get rid of products, etc. And we feel that there's a role and an opportunity for business. This is not something that we should look at governments or special interest groups. No. Companies, corporates have the resources, have the know-how, have the ability, and probably also have the responsibility to work on that. That means that our idea of corporate social responsibility or the role corporates play in society needs to move from the side business philanthropic idea to seeing corporate responsibility and CSR as a core business. That will require a lot of change, as also our previous presenter pointed out. So to summarize, sustainability needs change, and we see that change is organized in projects. So if we add those two together, we come to sustainability needs change, and change is organized in projects. Now the question that has been fascinating us for the past 7 or 8 years is, wouldn't that imply that sustainability also has some effect on the way we manage projects? So that's basically our why sustainability. Now Ron is taking over again.
Thank you. So that means that we are now entering the question, well, okay, what's the bottom line of sustainable project management? And although there has been relatively a lot of research and publications about it, well, it's relatively, because you can see on this slide that it started all around 2003, 2004 with a few publications, and now in 2013 we have an annual about 40. We've tried to analyze all of them and to come up with a result of how these two aspects interact. And we published that in as a scientific result in Social Business, and we did our own effort in presenting these insights in our books. You can see 3 of them on the screen. It means that the topic is moving and is getting more interest on the practitioner side and also on the research side. The question is, what is sustainability? Because you need a definition for it, and we found from literature the following principles. First, it's about balancing or harmonizing the social, environmental, and economic aspects. This kind of the people, planet, profit view of John Elkington. It's also about connecting short-term versus long-term, and it's about local at your own project site versus global effects. It's also about what are the values and ethics connected to the way you work and how you put yourself together as a project manager. It's about transparency and accountability, because we as a project manager here originally we do not try to be very transparent. We just try to tell your sponsor just as much as needed, but not more on the effects of the way you act. It's about stakeholder participation, because getting more perspectives into your work means that other stakeholders stand up, and you either find them or they will find you. But it's also about risk reduction of the materials you use, the way they apply effects after your project. And it's about eliminating waste, and it's about consuming your income instead of your capital. And that applies not only to the basic and scarce resources, but also to human capital. Project managers are very well able to whip your project team and get the results done. But how about your mental state of your project team members? Where we analyzed the literature on sustainability and project management, we could identify the following 16 impact areas. And I won't go through all of them together, but you can imagine that it has something to do with the context. You broaden the scope of your context by connecting not only to the project life cycle, but also to other life cycles. We come to that later. It's also about where does it meet your business case. Most of the time it's only economically oriented. How about the ecological and social aspects? It's about material, and it's about the learning organization. It's about reporting. It's about the closure. I think Rich already spoke to you about that too. And it's also about communication, about transparency. So there are a lot of aspects where we could find from literature where these two topics meet. And now we will give you the overview of the four actual core elements of sustainable project management. And there are four. First, it is having a people-planet perspective. The other one is about having a life cycle perspective. The third one is about stakeholder engagement, and the fourth is about taking responsibility. We'll go through them of you. First, the people-planet profit perspective. We all know, I think, about the formula of John Elkington about the people-planet profit perspective. One thing I think is very important. He said it's not about trading; it's about connecting them. So it's not trading environmental impact for a little bit of less economic value. No, it's about finding solutions which binds them all together. But actually, to be in the project, that's a little bit of a rough concept. It's very difficult to make it concrete. So we came up, and that was first noticed in IPMA conference, expert meeting conference. Can we make this more tangible? And the GRI gives you a very good example, the Global Reporting Initiative, about what are some kinds of the indicators useful when we look at the different sustainability aspects. So we see things like transport and energy, human rights, and labor practices and decent work, and we can even make them more concrete in the most right color. These are the elements you could find in your strategy. Like the strategy of the organization is about the specific topics they have impact on, like the washing machine of Rich. And then you find these same indicators and look where they connect to your specific project. So if we apply the people, planet, profit perspective, it has impact on certain impact areas, and they are green highlighted here. For example, the business case, you would like to add specific social or environmental indicators. The stakeholders, it gives you a perspective that you would add economic, environmental organizations, NGOs who represent those interests. But it's also about procurement. How can you help the people in your supply chain producing more sustainable results or their own product in a more sustainable way? The second element is about having a life cycle perspective. And that's actually a concept developed by Ms. Labuschagne. And she said, well, we are normally oriented in the project life cycle. Like Rich already told you, we stop the project after the handover. But the project makes a deliverable, makes an asset. And that asset has a life cycle of its own. For example, if the project is about building a fabric, then the asset would be the fabric. But the fabric has a life cycle of its own, and actually is producing products, and the product has a life cycle too. So if we would like to integrate sustainability into our projects, we have to look at all these life cycles in order to make a good determination about what to do. I would like to share with you in a short moment an example, just to give you a view how you could look to a project. And the Plug and Play Core is an offer from a Dutch company building a modularly based soccer stadium for the FIFA World Cup. And you would imagine that it's modularly based, so it fits in very models. And they need to be able to reuse it in different locations after the event. So you would build it for the FIFA World Cup, and after that you would take the pieces and transport them to another country, for example Africa, to build football stadiums of it over there. And we're trying to find out what are the sustainability aspects of this project. You see here 4 parts. First, it's modularly based. But it's also prefabricated. And if it's prefabricated, you could have a positive impact on the way you produce it. So it impacts on the health, it impacts on the safety of the workers. It reduces nuisance effects at the project site, because you're not making this anymore just directly where the spring is standing. And reduced cost, because you have the perfect environment to make this. And secondly, it impacts your project specification area, because it's modular designed and you need it for reuse, like after the tournament, but also about the flexibility. You can make from one module, you can make various situations. The other one is about where do you make it? Do you make this stadium locally, or do you make it on a global world? Well, they choose to make it local, specific on one side, and then transport this raw materials and the components to the stadium sites. So that means local sourcing, and it has a positive impact on reduction on emissions. It gives you employment, because regional employment, and it gives you opportunities to interact with the procurement side of your project, and giving local economies a boost. It's also about make this project delivery, the transport parts efficient, because all these modules, they just fit into one standard container, which is then transported to the final site. And this is important, because if we demolish the stadium, then you can transport it later on again for reuse to another country. So this we mean you can find out that it's rather flexible, and we can reuse it and also reduce the number of materials we use. So the life cycle perspective has impact on various impact areas we defined. And once again, they are green highlighted. So it impacts your context, because you're not just building a stadium, you are trying to find out how can I reuse it, how can I give it an afterlife project. But it's also about the project closure, because you don't just close a project, you think about it afterlife. It's about the risks, and it's about which are your relevant stakeholders among perspectives. A third part is all about how do I engage stakeholders. We used to stand to stakeholders like we try to manage them. That's mean we try to keep them away from us as a project manager, because they could influence a project in a way we would not like to do. But if you embrace stakeholders in a stakeholder dialogue, well, you would like to embrace their ideas and try to find out if you can make the project just for their interests. And good work was done about this, just the management for stakeholders instead of the management of stakeholders. And I give you and also in the time, a very small example. In sustainable GWW. That's an approach developed in the Netherlands, cooperated between business, public sector, and those institutions to make the sector more sustainable. And it gives you a very good example because they have a tool with a questionnaire focused on this sector, which you could use to identify with all your relevant stakeholders where are here the chances for sustainability in this specific project. And we tried and we applied this a few times in the building of railway infrastructure, and it works actually pretty well in joining forces and joining stakeholders, and then you kind of interact with them and they feel committed to the project. In the end, it has the engaging of stakeholders has impact on at least the stakeholder involvement, of course, and also in the way we communicate about the project. The fourth part is on taking responsibility. This is the topic of Gilbert, so I'll give Gilbert the root again.
Thanks, Johan. And taking responsibility is about the position we take as project managers. And perhaps I'm addressing now the profession of project management. We tend to look at our project sponsor and say, okay, that person is responsible for the assignment and we are just getting it done. We are doing the job. However, do we have a certain ethical base? Do we have a certain value base as a profession on which we say, okay, this type of project flies and this type of project does not fly? You know, where do we draw the line? And we were thinking about that because when applying these principles of sustainable project management or these core elements, we found out that in the end, integrating sustainability is not a checklist. It's not just what you do, it's also how you do it. And when exploring that, we came across, and I hope some of you also know this, the PMI Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct. Every member of the Project Management Institute gets this at home together with the membership card. And it's a really interesting document. If you start reading it, you'll find that it has some very powerful quotes. To give you an example, it says, as practitioners in the global project management community, we make decisions and take actions based on the best interests of society, public safety, and the environment. So this is sustainable project management. There's no other way. We demonstrate transparency in our decision-making process. Exactly. We provide equal access to information to those who are authorized to have the information. Well, that's also transparency and accountability. And we make opportunities available to qualified candidates in an equal manner. So a lot of the principles we identified as being the core of sustainability and their implications on project management are actually already addressed in this PMI Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct. So we could say it's not even something we do extra or something special. No, it's just our job. It is the profession of project management. So summarizing the core of sustainable project management, having a people, planet, profit perspective, having a life cycle perspective, practically engaging stakeholders and taking responsibility. And I think these four core topics really address all aspects of project management as we know it.
Thank you. This brings us to the last question we have, and it is, what are the benefits of sustainable project management? It's actually a question we get a lot from people listening to our presentations. They would say, okay, we understand your ideas, but what does it bring us? What does it bring us as an organization? And actually, we have two answers to this. First, we say, well, it's kind of your strategy. Like in the beginning, we already said, we see organizations move from side business to their core business. We see a lot of companies putting this upfront into their strategy, realizing it is kind of a big pillar of our strategy, or it is our mission and vision, like Unilever is, or like Interface is, or Deso. So one thing we say, well, okay, it's about just realizing your strategy of your organization. because you translate the sustainability vision and aspects into your project, into every project you do in the organization. So it realizes your strategy and it realizes your DNA of your organization. But the other thing is that we also believe that it has the thinking of sustainability in project management will have a positive effect on project itself, even if it's not about a green or a good or a sustainable goal in itself. And this will have a positive effect on 6 criteria for project success. First, controlling the project and managing budget and time. These should at least be neutral, because you have to control the project anyway, and you still have to manage your project on budget and on time. Like Elketon said, it's also on the economic side. And the control and the managing of budget and time is all about the economical side of the project. The third one is that it will satisfy your stakeholders. And that is logical if you say, well, one of the core elements of sustainable project management is about stakeholder engagement. You engage all the stakeholders relevant from the context viewpoint of your project. So they should be more satisfied instead of that they normally are kind of hold back if you're not actually the sponsor. The fourth is that the deliverable solution to the problem. We think that if you apply these thinking of sustainable project management, that you would think better about the problem and about the solution and look further in time, so that that your deliverable will be of better quality anyway. And that's also the same with meaning of the business goal. Sustainability is about creating value. It was from moving side business to getting into core business. There's also a value creation, so the possibility that you will meet your business goal, we think it should improve. And the last one is that well, it will prepare you for the future, and that's of course because the future, the project and the product of the project will help you to sustain in the long-term solution. So that will be the 6 elements. So the benefits are, once again, at first, of course, it realized the strategy of your organization, and that's also a good thing if you have an approach helping your organization doing that, because that was all what it's all about. And the second is, it will have a positive effect on the criteria for project success itself. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. I would like to thank you for listening to us. Feel free to contact us at LinkedIn or look at the websites we've just shown you in the screen. We have one in Dutch, unfortunately, and we have a literature review published by Bill Gilbert and Ron. And we have a list of all publications on sustainability and project management in a SlideShare document. So now I will pass the baton over to Peter Milsom, who has a very interesting presentation. So thank you all, and Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron and Gilbert, for a great presentation. I'm just going to move over to my deck. There we go. All right, you may need to click on my photo at the bottom right, just in case. So hello everyone, my name is Peter Milsom, and I'm the Vice President for Strategy for GPM Global. I'd like to take a quick moment and say a special thank you to Paula for all her hard work and leadership in organizing this event, and also for all of you who've chosen to spend your valuable time joining in with us today. As Paula mentioned, I am talking to you today from sunny and balmy Ottawa, Ontario, that little spot there. And for those of you who are interested, today is a delightful -20 degrees Celsius. And for you winter sports fans, Ottawa is the home of the world's longest natural skating rink. Before we begin, I'm sure many of you have seen this cartoon online. Now my hope with this presentation is that we'll keep this image in mind, just to consider the different perspectives and insights presented, and to keep challenging the status quo of how we perceive and do things, while we're passionately delivering on our goals and objectives. Now, this monstrosity is intended for 2 reasons. First, to demonstrate that I'm a methodologist.
he's reasonably well versed in many of these methods, frameworks, standards, and processes around change delivery. Also, because I'll be having some fun with a lot of this. Now, the second reason is if you throw all this mumph in a blender and distill it down, you'll get my perspectives for this presentation, which are objectives. For the next 17-ish minutes, I'm excited to have the privilege of talking to you about my observations for those of us involved in change delivery. Now, specifically, the point is that we should refocus from just a project practitioner specific focus to more of a sustainable portfolio management systems focus. Now, I've got a lot of slides. I effectively have to do 2 slides a minute, so there's lots of information. Now, you will be able to review this later on, okay? The main intention for this is to foster discussions and raise awareness. Now, the outline, this discussion will be organized into 4 sessions, as outlined below. And to help us keep on track, so that we know where we are, you'll recognize the transition when we come to a slightly noticeable green slide. Ouch. For this section, we're going to highlight some of my observations in dealing with executives in the C-suite, which have a direct impact on sustainable change delivery. Now, the main point is that we as sustainable change delivery practitioners and professionals, we have to be aware of these issues and help the organizations focus on the organization, the big picture, and our collective future. I wonder if you're aware of the story of the boiling frog. The point is, a frog will sit in a pot of tepid water on a stove and allow the water to slowly warm up the boiling point without jumping out. A good friend of mine and colleague was a VP responsible for strategy for a major public company during the internet boom days. Now, his original focus was 20+ years, but over time it shrunk from 15 to 10 to 5. By the time he realized the executives and shareholders only cared about a couple years to quarters, he realized he had to get out. Now, executives simply do not know if the strategies they are accountable for and which they've invested time, resources, and capital will be successfully delivered. Point being, how confident are you? Now, you've got effectively 3 options here. Do you feel rich, or do you feel lucky? The following slides will represent observations that executives, or the business, have to deal with but are ignored or glossed over. These are critical issues that must be continuously paid attention to and integrated. Now, executives are often aware of the uncertainty of successful projects and our profession's less than stellar odds of success. However, executives are coming to realize that throwing the change initiative over the wall to a project manager and walking away is not working. Just a quick reference here, GAPS is coming up with a project sponsor standard soon, and that may help to advise and guide executives. I'm going to go through these slides fairly quickly, but the main point is focusing on value. Now, as critical as this is, it is frequently overlooked. Value is the balance between the satisfaction of needs, or benefits, and the use of resources, or expenditure. Simple question is, what is the function being developed worth from the change to the client or the investor? Oftentimes, the solution is immediately identified without an analysis to identify simpler and cheaper options. This is a common, simple graphic, but it does point out, make sure that you figure up front what the value is. And here's just a quick outline of what the well-known value management discipline is and the value that it provides. Love this slide. My kids love this, this cartoon. This is a brilliant scene where the dog gets easily distracted by a squirrel, and executives often have the same attribute as mentioned by the boiling frog. Now, the point is, how clear and quantifiable is the strategic goal and objectives? Now, the business case is the accountability of the business sponsor. How many well-prepared business cases have been developed and continuously evaluated? Now, having a strong understanding of benefits management and business case is key, and there's some fun references there. Another frequent misunderstanding is the difference between output and benefits. Now, there are project managers who believe they are only responsible for outputs, and the business or sponsor is accountable for benefits. Now, though true in principle, we really need to understand and work with the benefits. A few quick definitions here. And the key point being, we have to recognize the path from project outputs to benefits. Here's another perspective that is often frequently misunderstood. The key issue is, and again, this is a perspective with not looking at the big picture, executives do not look at the full asset life cycle. Now, one of the key points is that most organizations just focus on the output. Now, there's an argument that 30% of any change initiative is to provide the new output. 70% is the implementation, acceptance, integration, and adoption of the new capability into the outcomes. Now, all of this is still costs, not to mention the O&M and the end-of-life costs. The focus should be on the benefits. Now, if you forget this in several years, the organization will pay the price. And again, as mentioned before, if you don't take into account all of these with your business case, it's going to take a hit. A few more references. Understanding your strategy again, risk management. Almost everything to do with sustainability revolves around risk. Now, unfortunately, the phrase that's often used is risk averse. Now, in reality, with many people, they're really risk ignorant. As mentioned, having a strong focus on risk management is key around everything, and we have to include that in all of our change delivery. And a few more fun references. Now, key point for this, we're going to finish off this section. Can your organization be trusted to reliably and consistently implement the change investments? Does your organization have the capacity and capability to deliver? So we've gone through where the executive's challenges are and where their head is at. Do our modern project management practices support this or make it worse? When Martin Cobb was the CIO for Treasury Board, he came up with what's known as Cobb's paradox. Standish Report frequently references this. I like this response to it, where traditionally the medicine prescribed by those who understand the problem has generally been rejected by the patient as being too strong. What do we mean by that? We need to consistently explain, contextualize, and educate people on the reasons for the medicine, okay, and why we're doing these things. And making sure that they understand the risks of ignoring or minimizing them. And again, sustainability, there is some overhead. This is a pet peeve of mine. We have invested bazillions of dollars in the project management industry. Now, no matter what everyone says, almost all of the responses come back to it's either about the same in terms of the benefits or success of projects, slight improvement, slight decline. Main point being, the delta is pretty small. So are we focusing on the right areas? Here's just a few quick observations around models and methods. All models are wrong, some models are useful. Project management processes and methods could be included for that as well. What's often the case is professionals, practitioners do a color by numbers focus as opposed to realizing that a key component of all of this is the understanding that you have to tailor to the current situation and use experience and common sense. Flaws in current project management theory. This is a fun presentation I saw in China a month ago, and the point of it was, is project management a subset of production management, and is that the right focus? Now, we'll go through this fairly quickly, but the key point being, though process is vital for ops, assuming continuous improvement, it needs to be dealt with differently with project management. Now, if you take this into account, project management, and you look at where it comes from, the basis of production management, Taylor, Short, and Ford, these objectives look fairly similar from a project management perspective. And if you look at the Iron Triangle, a lot of this is based on factory-based manufacturing theory. And is that correct for project management? And just an observation, would you define this as the project management transformation process or factory-based? And once again, is that appropriate? This is another pet peeve of mine. this is the traditional focus of project management in the West. Okay, now we've started to highlight some issues with this. The next phase is progressive. So successive PM practitioners focusing on time, cost, quality, scope, and benefits. Now, where the industry is going, though, is exceptional PM professionals also take into account the triple constraint. And the key question is, how can we get organizations to facilitate this? Now, the next section is going to focus on perspectives of change delivery, and I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. It's a fun quote. The main point being, don't just focus on projects. We have to take into account other disciplines within change delivery. Now, here are some disciplines. We've emphasized the importance of this in other areas. The question comes down to, how do we integrate all of this efficiently and effectively for successful, sustainable change delivery? Now, this is another pet peeve of mine. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. Many people feel that this is the normal career progression for project managers. I would argue that this is wrong. Barely 1% of our community can actually do this or transition this way. Learned recently, if we focus on the project controls and risk as the basis, there are other options besides just going towards project management. And I will just point out that when we were at the UN Global Compact session in New York last month, cost and schedule engineers in parts of Europe can command per diems of 2,000 plus euros, pounds a day because they're in demand. There are others. Now, what this shows is the governance and management systems. It provides a lot, and I'm not going to go through this in detail, but the point being the organization, not just the projects, not just the project manager, needs to have these support systems and governance in place. Here's another description for the support structures. Now, these are just examples that are provided, but the point being, can your organization actually implement or support successful change delivery? Now, the last section is going to pull all of these observations together. So, fairly simple diagram, highlight the key foundational components for the organization. In order to support that, as mentioned, you need the governance and the management systems. Now, we have projects within the organization, but the question is, how are these coordinated, supported, dealt with? The key to that is portfolio management. Portfolio management can integrate all of these change delivery disciplines and effectively act as the secret decoder ring between the executives and operations and facilitate the successful sustainability for change delivery. Last section. Now, in order to integrate all of these observations and to deal with the sustainability elements outlined here, portfolio management is the best option to invest in. So we've discussed a number of things: value management, benefits management, risk management, business case, taking the asset lifecycle perspective. We've got all of these areas, but they also have to be integrated with the sustainability elements. Now, the best way to integrate all of this, to address it, to communicate it, to understand it, is portfolio management. Now, what do we mean by portfolio management? Effectively, it's the facilitator for change within the business. Now, the key point is portfolio management assists both the executive and operations to ask the right questions, get the right information, communicate, and provide decision support guidance. Now, I've borrowed this slide from a model that I particularly like, which is the management of portfolios. This slide highlights the cycles that are involved. I like this one because it shows where portfolio fits and what the touch points are. Particularly like this as an example, one of the things the portfolio can do is ensure that the projects that are presented and which have done the proper analysis, the value management, the risk management, the benefits management, the business case, to make sure that it aligns to the strategic objectives and to deliver the benefits that are required. This is another fun slide. Again, borrowed from management of portfolios. Again, the key point is portfolio management helps collect the right information the information that's needed to guide the executives and the operations to focus on the right areas and invest the time, money, resources to move forward. So, summary. Now, the objective, and I'll just read this out, was to illustrate why a project management process focus may not yield the organizational success, and why if you focus or pay attention to more of a sustainable portfolio management systems focus, it will yield organizational success. Now, there's a lot of different perspectives, there's a lot of different areas to focus on, but as change delivery practitioners, professionals, we need to be aware of these points. We need to help support and guide. Our focus is not just the project. We have to look outside the box and take into account the organization, the long-term strategies, the asset lifecycle, and to provide the guidance to our peers and stakeholders so that we get the sustainable change delivery benefits and products that are expected. So again, the topics that we addressed: the executive's uncertainty, their perspective, challenges with modern project management, issues with that, just some high-level perspectives on the overall change delivery, how we have to tie into it, and the benefits of focusing and supporting portfolio management as a point to guide this forward. Thank you very much. There is your contact information. Thank you, everyone, for the privilege to present to all of you. Now, next, I'd like to turn this over to Monica to continue on with a case study in sustainability.
And the rise of the concept of corporate social responsibility should not be taken as a fashionable model or approach. Quite the contrary.
Monica,
Yeah.
oh, we cannot see your screen.
Can you see?
No, not yet.
Make sure you're using slide share, screen share.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I begin again. The global concern about sustainable development and the rise of the concept of corporate social responsibility should not be taken as a fashionable model or approach. Quite the contrary, must be assumed as a vision that helps both the company and society. Although corporate social responsibility involves a form of voluntary integration by companies into environmental and social concerns, sometimes local, sometimes global, should be noted that companies that take corporate social responsibility as a strategy can have significant new opportunities to contribute and build business value and at the same time meet the environmental and social challenges. This implies that organizational operations and projects should develop new ways of leadership in corporate social responsibility, not at the cost of restrictions, but rather than as a strength that allows align and valorize economically the organizational strategic objectives and issues as one of the most important intangible aspects. In this presentation, I will focus on chemical containers with checks of agrochemicals that come out of use or agricultural producers and how, with the proper management, processing, and marketing, can to be used to impact positively on the child health and nutrition, contributing in the fight against the child malnutrition. This presentation introduces the case study agreement.
Monica, sorry, your slides are not moving.
No. It's the first.
Okay.
This presentation introduces the case study of an agreement between governmental institutions focused in agriculture, a poorly refined recycling company, and 3 child care non-governmental organizations. The management container scheme used includes cleaning with triple rising methods, classification as non-hazardous materials according to FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, recycling into new products and selling into secondary materials market, and apply economic benefits directly to child health and nutrition. At the end, I conclude if this mechanism is replicated worldwide, organizations that adhere to United Nations Global Compact can significantly contribute to achieving the 4th Millennium Development Goals, which calls for reducing by 2/3 the under 5 child mortality by 2015. This is about me, and just tell that I am involved with GPM as Executive Director for Latin America, and co-author for two books. You can contact me with this email. Some publications. The last one, July 2014. This is the complete study case. You can get the complete article. So very interesting study. Just to put in context, the key moment for sustainability in project management was what Mary McKinley in the Inman World Congress 2008 said the further development of the project management profession requires project managers to take responsibility for sustainability. The key moment. And when we think or referring to sustainability, as we learn today, we talk about creating value and positive impact on global sustainability challenges. And take a look, according to the High Performance Business Research conducted in 2014 by a center with 1,000 global peers from tourism industry across 100 that enable leading companies achieve value creation and impact. First of all, realism and context, understanding the scale of the challenge and the opportunity, help growth and differentiation, turning sustainability to advantage and value creation. Third, partnership and collaboration, new challenges and new solutions. Fourth, value and performance. What gets measured gets managed. Technology and innovation, engagement and dialogue. And seven, advocacy and leadership. Just keep in mind these 7 keys for sustainability that we recognize in this study. Just the challenge that we study today is the hunger, the world hunger, the unacceptable and tremendous global flagellum. According to the World Food Programme, calculates that $6.2 billion is needed per year to reach all 66 million school age and aged children. Keep in mind this. Just to understand the context and the realities, according to the latest estimate on child mortality levels and trends in child mortality report 2013, the leading causes of death among children under age 5 include undernutrition with 45%, which means is 3.1 million children each year. Pneumonia, 17%. Preterm birth complications, 15. Complication during birth, 10. Diarrhea, 9. Malaria, 7%. The 8 million development goals. My research question in my paper title was, is it possible to achieve the 4th Millennium Development Goals, which calls for the reducing by 2/3 the child mortality under 5 by 2015, this year, digitally applying the benefits obtained from the container management programs worldwide? The study case is based on a real case. An organization that is this company from Mendoza, Argentina, that established this policy, this paradigm, in 2007. At the socially responsible companies are concerned to improve environmental conditions when the community is present in need of our actions. In this salt technology, in the design of our processing plant, and in the permanent care of all of our facilities, and in collaboration agreements with other institutions. So we identify advocacy and leadership, the 7th thing that is here recognized as the key, one of the 7 key for sustainability. And the agreement. This year, at the beginning of 2007 in the province of Mendoza, Argentina, that is a very important recycling company as part of its corporate social responsibility program celebrated a convention with ISCAMEN, the Business Chamber of Agrochemicals and Related, the Chamber of Agriculture and Fertilizers, the Cooperative for Child Nutrition, Canyon Foundation, the Helping Nasser Foundation of Neonatal Lago Maggiore Hospital, and Fondacer, and the Umberto Novi Pediatric Hospital Foundation. Dr. Albino, international rewarded and awarded by his labor, states the malnutrition of children, especially in the early life, has a direct impact on the size of the brain, causing mental weakness, the only one that can be prevented, the only one that can be reversed, the only man cause. We need to end the eternal war of man against man and start altogether the only war, the only win-win, man's war against hunger. The formation of the central nervous system is determined in the first 2 years of life. If during this time child receives no food and needs stimulation, brain growth starts, and the sleep cannot develop normally, affecting the intellectual quality and learning ability, running the risk of becoming mentally weak. This damage affects the world society, as the main world of the country is its human capital, and if it is damaged, this country has no future. Dr. Albino is from Argentina, and you can learn more about him accessing this website. It's tremendous, the action that is taking this doctor around the world. Dr. Albino is the founder of CONI, one of the organizations behind the. Okay, we identify another key: technology and innovation. The main objective of this convention is management of agricultural container according to Argentinian container management scheme, Agrointer, find the economic benefits obtained by market directly to child health and nutrition. This program is based on the recommendations mentioned in the International Code of Conduct on distribution and use of pesticides of that voluntary behavior patterns are established for all public and private entities involved in distribution and use of pesticides to assist in responsible management thereof. Let's see what happens around the world. Agrochemical container management schemes are around the world. Actually, there are 29 schemes survived by far. And according to the author of me research, FAO have compiled and analyzed the performance of 29 schemes that are operated around the world during years 2004 and 5. That analysis compares the quantity of containers put onto the market with the quantity of empty containers that are nourished by the schemes. And as we have looked at, for example, USA, percentage collected just 19%, Canada 70, 57, Argentina very good. Brazil is an example. With 86 and 97%. And so it was the engagement and dialogue that we identified in this agreement. This comment contact education programs in relation to safe use of chemicals and container management in all production sectors. Increase awareness by radio, TV, newspapers, and educational materials for schools regarding the importance of applying tribal rules as part of the good agricultural practice established in Argentina by the standard Iran. Provide material and human resources required to collect, receive, record, select, inspect, and compact the chemical containers from the collection points and transport the balance to various for recycling. What was the engagement to Varese extend an accreditation certificate to the final destination of each batch, allocate the recovered plastic to manufacturing elements such as coal, steel, tape, pipes, phones, goods, plastic covers, battery boxes, nor other products. Provide economic benefits to 3 foundations. Investing represents between 18 and 20% of the value of virgin purified polyethylene market, according to the latest data in the price of high-density polyethylene worldwide. But the company was only doing and donate happening with 30% of the market value of the virgin polyethylene for polyethylene. What was the engagement for the ONGs, the foundations, allocate funds obtained from the agreement for specific purposes to fight against child malnutrition? The intention to support children's growth in newborn, and other objectives of the respective constituent study. Was the value and performance of the results from the beginning, since 2007 to December. The program continued, but the study was up to December 2013. Whereas it had recycled almost 35 kilograms of containers from instrument, which translates to $39,000. It's not too much because the company is not too big. It's a family company. So, distributed to the foundation. And in turn, Varese have received an annual tax exemption equal to the amount of money donated. This is very good. Who gains? Who gains in this project? children, environment, company with reputation, its community, environment, avoiding contamination of the earth, land, water. And it was the learning for the company. Carlos Lara, one of the owners of Brescia Israel, stated during this time the company learned new ways to support the community through the coordination of private policies. This also helped us to take our first steps in corporate social responsibility. Studying this by regions in year 2004 and 2005, the rate of pesticide packing shift into market in regard with the rate of pesticide packaging collected. We see that if we calculate, if the 190 tons were estimated shipped in the market in 2000 were collected, recycled into new product, sold in the secondary materials market, and obtained economic benefit due to child health and nutrition, more than 2 million children could be reached that year. The value of applying the World Food Program calculations to the economic benefits of having recycled and stored that weight pesticide. It's tremendous, the impact, the positive impact that we can make in our society. Conclusion. The author can think that those 3.1 million unaffected deaths attributable to undernutrition could be avoided if this mechanism is replicated worldwide, significantly contributing to the achievement of the 4 Millennium Development Goals, which calls for reducing by 2/3 the under-5 child mortality by 2015, and positively impacting the post-2015 agenda. The final words, my final words, are as project from portfolio managers. It cannot be different. Quite the contrary, be sensitive, respectful, and take an active role, that is, the change agents for a better world with inclusive growth, social equity, and progress between other groups. Another final words are from the Earth Charter 2011. We are at a critical moment in Earth history in which humanity must choose its future. As the world becomes increasingly interdependent and fragile, the future holds at once holds great courage and great promise. To move forward, we must recognize that in the midst of significant diversity of cultures and life forms, we are one human family and one earth community with a common destiny. We must unite to create a sustainable global society founded on respect for nature, universal human rights, economic justice, and acute peace over Sweden, it is imperative that we, the peoples of Earth, declare our responsibility to one another, to the greater community of life, and to the future generations. Okay, these are the data that you can contact me. Or also, if you want to replicate this program in your country, your city, your region, just call me. Okay, thank you very much. And I invite you to listen to Joel Carbone, President, and CEO of Green Project Management.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Monica, for the introduction. I will be as brief as possible, as time is a limiting factor at the moment. Let's get started here. So today I'm going to talk about what is sustainable delivery and what does it mean. So a quick outline, as you see here. I'm going to move along quickly now. So setting the stage, sustainable development, as was mentioned in previous presentations today by our wonderful speakers, is in fact development that meets the needs of the present while compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now, I want to focus on the word development because that will play into a big part of what I'm talking about here today. What you see in front of you, and I will not do death by PowerPoint, but these are the 18 points from the Rio Declaration that was published, and essentially what it's saying is nations. It talks about nations a lot and what they need to do, but in fact, nations don't cross boundaries. Corporations, companies, organizations, they do. And the biggest impact on sustainability from a global perspective can come from companies. And it's up to project managers, portfolio managers, change delivery agents to be able to make this change and to drive this forward. And so another couple things that don't seem to come out of this document are the context of sustainable or development and also lack of call to actions. So what's happening? 93% of CEOs globally, according to Accenture and the UN Global Compact, state that sustainability is the new key for business success. Now think about that for a minute. That's the new key. However, out of those CEOs, 62% cannot quantify the value of their own initiatives. Now, what happens if you can't quantify the value of anything? You're not going to put much stock into it. You're not going to do it very much. As a result, half of the organizations, and there's thousands, that pledged the UN Global Compact are delisted because they cannot fulfill that commitment. And that commitment is essentially to recognizing human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption within their business practices. What we have as a result are what we call the Cobb Salad Report. Now, I was in Beijing last summer, and Timothy Hui, the head of GRI China, was giving a great presentation, and he said that, GRI reports are growing in mass, however, they're also growing in size. What we're seeing inside them are a lot of wonderful things like health and safety goals, philanthropy, waste reduction, but these are all geared towards operational aspects, and we want to know more about what they're building, what they're delivering, what are your products like? And so that's the challenge. Projects, however, bring about those kind of results. They bring about business change, product changes, service changes, social changes, and so on. And so again, it's the projects and the change initiatives that have to invite sustainability into the fray in order for us to achieve any kind of global goals. And as I refer to the triple bottom line, environmental, economic, and social as the three kind of key building blocks, it's important to think about what type of processes are being built around them and what type of products are being built out of them as we're seeing the integration become more and more tighter. If you take a look at how a product comes to be and how it gets to the shelf, it's a pretty simple process from a high level. You've got the organizational strategy, thinks of, hey, new idea, new product, new service. It becomes an opportunity. It flows down as a business case through the project management processes and through governance and becomes a deliverable. And ultimately, a new product. From there, it gets handed off to operations. and then they sold off, it becomes benefits for the organization, which becomes happy. Hey, we did it. But the challenge is that sustainability practices, standards, are geared towards operational aspects of business. Why is that? What we're left with is the Bermuda Triangle of sustainability. The project organization, the project standards are often left out, which is a major problem. And I think, as Rich pointed out earlier, there's a brick wall here. We're often taught as project managers that we live inside the box of initiate to close, when in fact we should be thinking about handing off the baton, receiving the baton, and the entire project life cycle. So how to deliver sustainably? Essentially, we're looking at when you initiate. I'm going to go very high level here, but when you initiate, think about ensure the business case, and thinking as the PM, yes, ensure the business case aligns with organizational strategy, values, principles, ethics, organizational systems. If they don't, raise it up the ladder, say, hey, we have a problem here. We're going to see decreased benefits if we don't do this. Also, ensure that your project plan success criteria has the entire product and asset lifecycle in mind. Or is it thinking just quick wins? Is it benefits focused, and is it assessed for sustainability risks? This is critical. Also, ensure that your implementation and controls adheres to sustainability principles and are aligned with organizational systems and governance. I know that's sort of a theme throughout this webinar today, but it can't touch on it, and it's very important. Also, support long-term thinking, not quick wins. And lastly, ensure that the asset or product of the project is as sustainable as possible. The social and environmental impacts, and that the documentation supports materiality for sustainability reporting. That way your organization as a whole can start reporting on not just the operational aspect, but also your products, because project reporting should flow up the organization and ensure that it's reaching every level, and therefore being able to be more transparent. And so quickly, I'm going to go over some sustainability change delivery principles, and this is sort of the foundation of our PSM3 assessment model. Essentially, we have commitment and accountability, ethics and decision making, integrated and transparent, principles and value-based, social and ecological equity, and economic prosperity. And these are kind of the basic building blocks that you want to look at for organizational governance, saying, do we have this in place in our PMO? Are we looking at this for our governance structure to make sure that when we deliver projects and change that we're doing so as effectively and efficiently as possible, bringing about the most benefit, not just to the organization, but also to society and also to the environment. So that's those. And lastly, I know I've gone very quickly here in the midst of time, but there are millions and millions of project managers around the world. And there are even more projects going on. If you think about it, we all have the ability to make change. And we're tasked with change. We're called change agents. If each one of us makes a small change to the way we go about our jobs, we can have a massive effect on the world and also our future. So with that, I will end my part. And I want to say thank you. This is my contact information here. I want to say thank you to all of our presenters and to Paula for launching this initiative. On behalf of Paula, Rich, Ron, Gilbert, Peter, Monica, and myself, thank you all for your attention today, and we hope you've enjoyed this webinar very much. Thank you very much.